Yes, good evening everyone. This is ED session, editorial discussion session, where we are discussing in depth, we can say the current affairs topics which are in news, and you need to build a perspective on those topics for your mains examination preparation. Also, we are trying to gather the relevant information for prelims examination on these topics. Here, the brief discussion will be done on that topic from the exam point of view, we can say orientation. And today's topic is India's mining policy. Why it was in news recently? The Parliament had passed the amendment to particular act, that is Mines and Minerals, we can say Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2023 was enacted recently. So you should be knowing what changes are proposed under this amendment, and along with that, what is the significance of those changes, what are the concerns and issues associated with those changes. All these things today we are going to learn in this ED session. Let's talk about first about the agenda of the session. Context. Thereafter, the details of development, amendment, need, why it was needed, then significance. Thereafter, the issues and concerns associated with that particular amendment. In general, issues related to mining sector, also challenges. Thereafter, we will talk about way forward. All right, so this can be agenda for today's session. Now, context. Yes, of course, Mines and Minerals Act, Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2023. So the original act 1956 that has 57 that has been amended here through this particular amendment, and major changes have been done. That's why we are covering this. How it is relevant, this particular topic, this can be relevant in GS 3 paper, economy part, of course, and along with that GS 1 also, geography part. In the description of this video, we are attaching the detailed subject matter for this particular topic. You can download that PDF, you can read it later on as a part of your study material. Now, let's talk about the details of this development or amendment. What kind of, let's say, amendments have been proposed to this particular act through this particular amendment. So, like every time, I am providing you short one-page note for each and every topic. So, you should have also such kind of one-page note for important and relevant developments, especially for mains examination. All right. So, yes, these are the important developments. One by one, let's talk about them in detail. Right. So, what are the highlights? Yes, main highlight is exploration license are to be provided or given. We can say that through competitive bidding. Now, this exploration license is being provided to the private sector. So, you should know the major significance of this amendment is participation of private sector. Major significance, participation of private sector through various measures. The private sector is being incentivized to participate in the exploration activities. So, exploration license will be provided through competitive bidding by the state government, and that license will be valid for 5 years, which can be extended up to 2 years on case-to-case basis. And this will be provided by the state government. Remember this, it will be provided by the state government through competitive bidding. Now, what kind of procedure will be there for such kind of auctioning or competitive bidding will be decided by the central government. Okay, so the procedural aspect will be decided by the central government. Remember this part also, because you should be knowing the details of all these developments. It can be directly asked, like discuss the features or salient features of this particular amendment act. आपको ये factual information directly लिखने आनी चाहिए, right? Specific information. Now, another important aspect is that yes, they are supposed to provide the geological report, and they are incentivized. Who? The private sector. How? Yes. Now, who will try to invest in that exploration? Those who have something in mind that in future it will give them returns. Now, how the returns will be provided here to those private players? It will be provided by giving them share in, we can say, auction of mining lease to be decided by the central government. So let's say there is one private company, and that company has been provided the exploration license. Now, during the 5-year time period, they will try to do certain activities, scientific activities, surveys, and they will try to do the pitting and different activities, exploration activities. And once they are done, if suppose they find or discovered certain amount of mineral resources, then it is going to provide a particular report to the government within 3 months time period. That too within 3 months time period. Yes, Vijay Lal, what you are saying, for minor minerals, power is vested with the state government. That is true. For minor minerals, of course, state government will decide. But you should know, it is talking about the exploration license, not exactly mining auction. First, there will be exploration, and thereafter there will be separate auctioning for the mining purpose. Try to understand this. Okay. So here what will happen, for exploration purpose, this methodology, the procedure will be decided by the central government. Understood? For minor minerals mining purpose, the auctioning and all these things are decided by the, are done by the state government. Here also, basically the exploration license for all kind of minerals will be provided by the state government. Fine. Within 3 months, they will submit one report talking about how much amount of, we can say, the minerals they have discovered there. So this report will be provided to state as well as central government, and based on that report, basically within 6 months time period, there will be auctioning for mining lease. So you should be knowing all these time periods also. Now the central government will decide in that auctioning of mining lease that how much share of profits from that lease will be shared with the exploration licensing. Now you should be knowing this, because we are not clear about how much share. ये हम concerns में पढ़ेंगे. How much share will be provided? It is not fixed yet, it is not decided yet. So this aspect. Thereafter, subsurface activities now will be included in reconnaissance. Now what do you mean by reconnaissance? See, when we talk about the mining aspect, just a moment. When we talk about the mining aspect, the mining exploration thing is done in a sequence. Okay, so reconnaissance, then it will basically, it will lead to, we can say, prospecting. It will lead to prospecting. Then it will lead to general exploration. It will lead to general exploration, and finally there will be detailed exploration. Finally there will be detailed exploration. ऐसे sequence में जाएगा. Now reconnaissance will involve certain activities, like for example surveying. All these activities will be there. ठीक है. So now in surveying, or we can say that different kind of, like mapping, aerial surveys, ground surveys, all these things will be done here, right? And this was basically available only above the surface on the earth. It was not having the, just a moment. Yes. So let us continue. So up till now, the reconnaissance was done as a part of, we can say, exploration only above the Earth's surface, and subsurface, that is digging, pitting, that was not allowed. We should know this aspect. Now, through this amendment, this is being allowed. Subsurface activities like digging, pitting. So because of that, there will be more help in understanding which particular, let's say, resources are there in that, at that particular place. ठीक है, तो ये आपको चीजें समझना है. Now what will happen thereafter? The other, let's say, amendments that have been done: declassification of 6 atomic minerals. Now this is very important development. Declassification of 6 atomic minerals. Now earlier these atomic minerals were not allowed to be explored by the private sector. Declassification means now there will be private sector participation for exploration of these minerals. Now these are now categorized as critical minerals and strategic minerals. Okay, so they will be having separate list, critical and strategic minerals, we can say. So these minerals, for example, lithium, zirconium, or even beryllium. So these minerals are very important, especially for electronics industry. Also, we can say that the electric vehicles manufacturing, battery manufacturing, and we know that how there is vulnerability, global vulnerabilities, uncertainties in the global supply chain, and because of that we need to be self sufficient in that, in those minerals. At present we are very much import dependent. So declassification will help, the private sector participation, their expertise will be helping here. Understood. And finally, central government led auctions for critical and strategic minerals. So अभी जो हमने 6 minerals की बात की है, यहाँ पर central government will be doing the auctioning part for exploration of those minerals. Fine. Now you have understood the important changes that have been done in this particular, we can say that, act. Now, why these changes have been, adopted by the government? Reasons. The important reason is that there are, there are obstructions, disruptions in the global supply chains of these critical minerals. Now we have observed that, let's say, already whatever the critical there, like for example, lithium, cobalt, these minerals are concentrated in the certain parts of the world. Like for example, this year prelims question, 70% of the resources of cobalt are in Democratic Republic of Congo, African country, right? So this particular country, or lithium, majority of the are in the lithium triangle countries. Lithium triangle countries are there in the South American continent. So we should know that we are very much dependent, almost 100% import is done for these minerals at present in India. And that's why we are dependent on the global uncertainties, and there are, let's say, disruptions. First, there was disruption in, we can say, supply chain because of COVID-19 pandemic. Then now Russia-Ukraine war is going on. So all countries, especially Western countries, they are looking for, let's say, securing the global supply chains. That's why the global mineral security partnership is there. ये सारी चीजें आपको पता होनी चाहिए. Because of import dependent, we are not able to, we can say that, have a strategic aspect involved there. Now we want to boost the domestic production, that's why. Along with that, the mining sector, it is having huge potential in India, but it is not tapped yet. I want to add some facts here. What kind of facts? Like for example, it is not there in the booklet that we have provided. So some facts that I would like to mention here that are there in the Hindu article. Yes, at present India has explored only 10%. Only 10%, we can say that, of its OGP. What is OGP? Obvious geological potential. Obvious geological potential. Out of this 10%, only 2% have been mined. Only 2% have been mined, and India spent less than 1% of the global mineral exploration budget. Less than 1% of the global mineral exploration budget. Now these facts you can mention in your answers. Very relevant and important ones, right? So after understanding that, we are understood here, we have not tapped the untapped potential, and that's why we are trying to seek the participation by the private sector and boost the production of these minerals within the country. So utilizing the expertise of private sector, yes, the public sector may not be having expertise, may not be having technology, skilled manpower, and private sector is having all these things. In addition to that, it is having professionalism, so it will boost the efficiency and all these things. So this one. Then critical minerals important for clean energy transition. Yes, of course, clean energy transition. At present, we are very much concerned about the climate change, and in Paris summit, we have committed to the global, we can say that as a part of global commitment to deal with the climate change. So we want to have 50% of the overall energy mix from the non-fossil fuel. This is opportunity to move towards electric vehicles. So transitioning towards the cleaner sources of energy, for that we need such critical minerals like lithium. One of the example I am telling, ठीक है, तो वो आपको use करना है. Yes. So even Chinese monopoly is an issue for us. Yes, I will talk about that. Yes. When we talk about the supply chain, or we are dependent on imports, of course, majority of the resources, just I was talking about this one. If we talk about rare earth elements, REE, so China is having most of the resources of rare earth elements, which are very important for semiconductor manufacturing, or we can say that in electronics industry. So China, जब से ये हम बोल सकते हैं कोविड पैंडेमिक हुआ है, and thereafter how, let's say, or before that itself, US China trade wars, trade sanctions, तब से हम देख रहे हैं कि we want to be independent from Chinese, let's say, sourced global supply chains, right? So that point is correct. What we can say, yes, students, Vijayalal, so yes, your point is correct there. Now, talking about the significance. Yes, significance, of course, there is significance. That's why the government is taking all these decisions, right? First of all, increased pace of exploration will be there. At present, the pace of exploration is very low. The public sector is, we can say that, infamous for this inefficiency, lack of, we can say, expertise, unprofessionalism, delays. All these things are happening in the mining sector because 90% and above public sector entities, like for example Geological Survey of India, this is the only entity will do, let's say, exploration aspect. Or if you talk about atomic minerals, so atomic minerals ke liye Mineral Exploration Corporation of India is there. So yes, there will be delays because of all these things, and that's why private sector participation is important. Now this will boost the exploration. Sharing of cost and risk. Yes, risks are very high when we talk from the mining perspective. Exploration is continuous activity, but yes, जहाँ पे हम सिंपल देखते हैं कि ग्राउंड वाटर, जहाँ पे बोरवेल डालनी है, तो बोरवेल के पानी मिलने के चांसेस भी तो कितने होते हैं? ऑफ कोर्स कम होता है. यहाँ पे बोरवेल डाल दिया तो वहाँ पे पानी नहीं आया, गया पूरा कॉस्ट. इट इज रिस्की बिजनेस. सो ऑफ कोर्स you should know that mining is also one such business which is having very high cost and risk that needs to be shared. And now we can say that the government financial burden will reduce as the share cost will be shared with the private sector. Yes, of course, the profits will be also shared. Now the expertise will bring the competition and efficiency, professionalism, and we can say that the timely completion of projects. So this will overall boost the economic growth within the country. This is, we can say, 5 points. You write 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, सभी तरफ 5 points. यही आपका ultimate resource होगा मेंस में आंसर्स लिखने के लिए, right? So now let's talk about the issues and concerns associated with this amendment. Yes, the major issue here is that whatever the revenue mechanism, revenue sharing mechanism it talked about, rather there is lack of clarity. Lack of clarity means the government said that they will provide share in the auctioning of mining lease, but how much share, how it will decide, what will be the parameters on the basis of which it will be decided. So unless and until it is clear to the private sector that this particular share will be provided to you, why it will invest? ठीक है, ये इन्वेस्ट क्यों करेगा प्राइवेट सेक्टर? उसके लिए इंसेंटिव्स, मोटिवेशन क्या है इन्वेस्टमेंट का? यही है ना. ऑफ कोर्स इट इज टेकिंग लॉट ऑफ रिस्क. मैंने अभी बताया इट इज रिस्की बिजनेस. So of course there is lack of clarity and it is going to hinder the private sector participation. Uncertainty and risk involved. So already it is a deterring factor for private investment. Mining sector, there is lot of uncertainty and we can say that risk is involved. So private sector investment. So if there is lack of clarity, further it is going to deter. Auctioning unexplored resources is a complex process. Already the auctioning of already explored, let's say minerals, coal mining में हमने देखा है auctioning में 2G coal scam, coal gate scam जो हुआ था. Already there is problem. Okay, problem for the explored minerals itself. Unexplored मतलब वो अभी पता भी नहीं है कि वहां पे है, कितने है, कहाँ है. उसके लिए माइनिंग ऑक्शनिंग प्रोसेस कैसे डिसाइड करना है, उसके क्या पैरामीटर्स होंगे, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट, कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रोसेस. And that is going to again further create a problem or create delays for, we can say, exploration and mining. It differs from global best practices, especially for revenue sharing mechanism. The global best practices says that once the exploration is done, the exploration licensee or that private entity is also having option to directly sell whatever that entity has discovered to the private other entity. ठीक है, तो हाईएस्ट बिडर को वो डायरेक्ट सेल कर सकते हैं, वैसा बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है. बट ऑफ कोर्स इट इज problematic because it is natural resource is part of, we can say, the public good, or we can say a common good for all citizens. So government should intervene and it should regulate. तो बहुत सारे complexities है involved here. We should know all these challenges or concerns associated with. ठीक है. So yes, licensing is for captive mining only or for commercial purpose also. See, licensing is for both. Okay, or auctioning, we can say that auctioning is simply especially for commercial exploration, auctioning is done, and here we are talking about the licensing for exploration. ठीक है, तो exploration is a scientific activity. Try to understand. Okay, and when we talk about the mining lease licenses are directly for commercial purpose. They are for directly for commercial purpose. ठीक है. So at present we are following that competitive bidding practices. And captive mining, yes, of course there is no direct competitive bidding for that. Government decides on the basis of that. Largely captive mines are, we can say, doing the mining by the public sector entities. Now you have understood the concerns. Let me also highlight some common concerns that are there in the mining sector. Okay, first of all, we know that mining sector is having huge losses. Like for example, Coal India Limited, it is facing lot of losses. Okay, rather it should be generating lot of revenue. It is the only entity, we can say, more than 90% of the coal that is being mined within the country, Coal India Limited hai. But it is loss making. Why? Because there is lack of delay in payment by the discoms. ठीक है, जो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी प्रोडक्शन वाले, पावर प्लांट से डिले हो जाता है. सो ऑफ कोर्स these huge losses, government is taking the burden. Then we can talk about the pollution aspect and environmental degradation aspect. Right, so of course mining is going to result into environmental degradation. There will be pollution that is going to create a lot of problem. Already it is creating problem in central, we can say, central Indian states. Coal mining or iron ore mining, all this resulting into loss of, we can say, that environment there, or forest clearance and all these things. Then third one, important one, displacement of the people from that region. This is resulting into lot of protest. Why? Because appropriate rehabilitation is not being done for them. ये सारी चीजें हैं. And then the projects are delayed. Best example, Vedanta mining, Odisha. So you should be knowing the common problems that the mining sector is facing. So we have lot of mineral resources, but all these problems are actually hindering. So government is having huge burden. Okay, the sole sector for involved in largely the exploration and the mining activity. Yes, of course, there was some regulation control over all these activities after independence. Why? Because yes, strategic minerals were also involved. We followed the socialist model initially, but the private sector was also not ready for investment because the private sector did not let's say had such kind of capital at that time. ठीक है, आज अभी अभी कैपिटल है आफ्टर 3 decades of LPG reforms, and that's why it is ready to invest. So you should be knowing about the reasons also. ठीक है, so let's talk about the way forward now. Yes, online students and those who are watching this on Zoom session, आपको कोई भी डाउट होता है तो आप पूछ सकते हैं यहाँ पर डायरेक्टली. Okay, now way forward. In way forward, we should be knowing or writing that there should be transparency in the revenue sharing model mechanism. ठीक है, so what kind of transparency we are talking? So whatever the decisions are there related to revenue sharing mechanism, it should be done in the transparent manner. So whatever the parameters are there, if they are clear, there is clarity on this, so the private sector can come forward and invest. There should be strong regulatory mechanism. Why? Because whenever there is private sector, there are always chances that there will be nexus, there will be corruption and wastage, diversion of the public resources or this mineral resources. As private sector focuses solely on, we can say, profit motive, works on the profit motive, so it can involve in the crony capitalism, or we can say corrupt practices. Strong regulation is required here, so this is important. Then global best practices, like private explorer can directly sell their discoveries to mining entities. Just now I was explaining this part, right? So you should be knowing the best practices also, especially in developed countries these practices are there, but this practice can be implemented when first two are implemented. When first two, that is transparent and we can say clear revenue sharing model is there and strong regulatory mechanism is there, then we can say that the third can be implemented appropriately. Okay, so along with that, when we talk about the mining, other problems just now we can say learned regarding the mining aspect. So of course you should be knowing the general thing that whenever we talk about the displacement aspect, you should be knowing that all the rehabilitation should be done before mining is started. So Olga Tillis judgment, Supreme Court, all these things we should be knowing. So rehabilitation is, when it is done, then there will not be feeling of, let's say, injustice. So we can say that economic development should be go hand in hand with the social justice aspect when we talk about the people who are being displaced because of these mining projects. Along with that, environment protection is also important. So whatever the practices, the mining practices and the technology that is used there for the mining purpose, that should have least impact on the environment, wildlife habitat of that region. So all these things, like for that purpose, what we need appropriate EIA, environment impact assessment, and SIA, social impact assessment on the communities which are living in the nearby region. We learn about this syllabus topic. EIA is our syllabus topic for mains examination, right? So in past, UPSC has asked 2 questions in GS1 paper related to mining, but in GS3 paper we are still expecting question, and this is major development related to mining sector, and this development is largely from economy perspective. ये अभी GS1 में नहीं आएगा, ठीक है? This will be in GS3 largely, all this amendment that has been done and the procedural changes and the participation to the private sector, how it is being incentivized. Remember? Fine? Okay, any question related to this? See, we wanted to keep the discussion very specific to all this amendment act that has been done. ठीक है, नहीं तो mining sector, it is very wide topic. Yes, online students. Those who are watching live on YouTube, you can ask question in the comment box. Is it okay? Fine then, let us stop. Thank you.